when we talked about what is the vision and national service, I think it does not begin or should not begin at the high school level. I think it needs to go to the primary school level.
Leveraging and launching our creative industries in the country.
That's gotten mixed reviews.
Well, I think what got mixed reviews is not the concept, but the labeling.
What we do today will affect those coming after us.
Good evening, Bahamas. You're tuned into MB12, broadcasting from Cable 12 Studios on Robinson Road. Coming up tonight in news, the government ends negotiations to take back BTC. A man wearing and monitoring ankle bracelet found murdered. What's next for Cuban migrants imprisoned at Her Majesty's prison? Plus, 13 years later, the Bahamas 4x400 men's relay team gets its medals. We've got those stories and so much more coming up. I'm Paige McCartney, and MB12 starts right now. Welcome once again to MB12. It appears the government and cable and wireless communications executives have reached the end of their road on the negotiations for the take-back of the majority stake of the telecommunications company. According to Prime Minister Perry Christie, there won't be any further talks.
The negotiations, insofar as there have been negotiations, are complete.
Last month, Christie revealed that he was considering extending the date for liberalization of the sector in exchange for the majority share in BTC. However, since then, CWC executives have indicated they would not take the offer, stating publicly that they were preparing for the liberalization of the market in spring of 2014. The Prime Minister said that offer is now off the table.
Fact of the matter is, and people were speculating as to whether I was negotiating. All of these are matters that we worked ourselves through, and I think we're in a position where he is quite right in saying that the country wants to have liberalization. Liberalization will be very good for the country, and so I expect that to begin in earnest in March, at the end of March, April next year, and we will move then to select another cellular provider or a number of them, depending on the circumstances.
Despite an admittedly strained relationship between the government and cable and wireless, the Prime Minister said he's still optimistic that the two parties will reach a mutual satisfying agreement. He said, though, that the ball is now in CWC's court.
There are compromises, and I'm waiting now. In fact, I'm waiting for what I gather will be a final response. And so no fanfare. You know, we've had wonderful discussions, and the chairman, Mr. Rice, and Cable Wireless are concerned that the relations between the government and its members on the board and the cable and wireless members, that those relations could be radically improved. I would like to believe that part of the overall settlement will address that issue, and we'll move forward.
As for other mobile telecommunications providers, the Prime Minister said he's certain Digicel will be one of those introduced to the market next year.
Well, one day after a man was stabbed at his St. Vincent Road home, police have opened yet another murder investigation. However, they believe the victim may have been murdered a week ago. His body was found on the north side of the South Beach Canal this morning. Authorities are questioning how the body went undetected for so long, even though the victim was wearing an electric monitoring device. Monique Toot has the details.
At around 11 this morning, police say a man who was fishing in the area came across a decomposed body in that area where you see those crime scene investigators behind me. Head of the Central Detective Unit, Superintendent Paul Roll, says the victim was wearing an ankle bracelet, and police believe his body may have been here for about a week. Officers reportedly found 2 fired cartridges near the victim's body. However, Roll says it's unclear if he was killed near the South Beach Canal or if his body was dumped there.
It appears that there's a heavy concentration of bloodstains in the shirt area of the of the individual. As I said, he is completely, not completely, but in an advanced state of decomposition. He is wearing a large silver link chain, as well as a silver watch. He's wearing a black jeans with the emblems of the marijuana leaf.
The victim, who is believed to be a 30-year-old resident of Kennedy Subdivision, was also wearing red and black tennis. However, officers were more interested in what they found on his ankle.
He seemed to be someone, he's wearing an ankle bracelet. We just determined while sitting here that the man was wearing an ankle bracelet. So all of those we have to try and get the answers for.
Police had to track down this lengthy track road to get to the body, which is about 2,000 feet away from East Street South and on the north side of the South Beach Canal. Superintendent Roll says they'll be looking to the company that operates electronic monitoring devices to assist with their investigations. We asked the CDU chief how a body could possibly go undetected for over a week when the victim's ankle was outfitted with an electronic monitoring device.
You need to refer that to the monitoring center, because if something like that, they should have alerted. I couldn't speak to that.
The country's murder count for the year now stands at 65. This morning's discovery comes one day after a man was stabbed to death at his home off St. Vincent Road. Roll says they are determined to bring the perpetrators to justice. Reporting for NB12, I'm Vonique Tude.
Well, several weeks after 6 Cuban detainees were moved from the Carmichael Road Detention Center to Her Majesty's prisons, more details are emerging about what led to their transfer and what steps the migrants are taking next. Christina McNeil has more in this report.
The detention of a group of Cuban migrants in the Bahamas has generated a lot of attention both locally and internationally. But new details emerging about a court action to be taken by 3 of those migrants has led the Bahamas government to underscore statements made by the foreign minister that there has been no change in the government's publicly announced position on those matters.
Foreign Affairs and Immigration Minister Fred Mitchell has revealed that 3 Cuban migrants being held at HMP have filed a writ of habeas corpus, asking the court to release them based on various allegations of abuse. While Mitchell did not offer any further comments on the matter, he said it will be heard before a court on August 1st. It all stems from reports that Cuban migrants at the detention center were protesting. State Minister for National Security Keith Bell told our news team some of the Cuban detainees were on a hunger strike and later sewed their mouths shut with a thick gauge of wire to protest while at the detention center. That was last week. Since then, the migrants have been taken to Princess Margaret Hospital for treatment, and 6 of them were moved from the detention center to HMP due to what Bell described as hostile behavior. Government officials have also said there was an escape attempt by a Cuban detainee from the detention center. Royal Bahamas Defense Force Commander Nedley Martinborough says that's just one of the possible infractions that would cause a detainee to be transferred to prison.
That is standard operating procedure. Once a detainee who is being detained for illegal entry into the country has been found attempting an escape, that now is another charge that is laid against them besides the entering into the country illegally, and a charge like that determines a move to Her Majesty's prison for further processing or charging.
Meanwhile, according to a statement released by Mitchell, the individuals continue in lawful detention at Her Majesty's prison, and there will be no further comment on the matter. Reporting for NB12, I'm Christina McNeil.
Well, 35 Haitian migrants have been apprehended by the Royal Bahamas Defense Force and immigration officials since their sloop arrived in waters off South Beach yesterday. RBDF Deputy Commander of Operations Tellis Bethel says officers received a call that a sloop was spotted in waters off Blue Hole Road South at around 4 Sunday morning. 11 migrants were rounded up in the first wave of search and recovery efforts. Bethel says there are always challenges when searching for illegal migrants once they've made it to shore.
Of course, it's very difficult once migrants land ashore. It's difficult to find them when they blend with the communities. Also bearing in mind that they oftentimes are assisted by locals within our communities. That makes it more difficult to actually find them.
Well, Bethel notes that the efforts of the Defense Force have not been in vain.
We do know that there's a lot of concern with Bahamians with the migrants landing, and we know that the making landfall here on New Providence is one of the main routes that the migrants take. But just bringing balance to perspective, we have to bear in mind that there's been some time before an incident like this has happened, which is an indication that some of the efforts that the Defense Force has undertaken has really been effective.
Well, according to the Defense Force, 118 Haitian migrants were repatriated last week. This latest apprehension brings the total number of Haitian migrants at the detention center to just over 50. Stick with us. Coming up after the break, government steadfast on its new tax regime. Plus, later in news, it took 13 years, but the Bahamas gets more Olympic medals from the 2000 Sydney Games. We'll tell you more about those and other stories when we come right back.